So you see the different national powers, and isn't it interesting that this is all centered around Korea? Korea is on the world stage. Of course, in a failed way, and now in a way that is completely chaotic and on the verge of nuclear collapse. And if the Han Mother did not send the curse to all of the world, starting from Asia, obviously, first, because that's where Father wanted to begin Cheonigu culture and begin the Able UN and begin the strategic placement of democratic nations and alliance that would eliminate tyrants from its ranks, unlike the UN, which has all these tyrants in its UN Council. How can you have China as the head of the UN Security Council? Give me a break. They can get away with every single type of human rights violation. Can you take down? Human rights violation, and the UN doesn't do Shemitah on them. Does absolutely nothing. And that's why Father called the UN a satanic UN, because it protects Satanists, and it protects the big power brokers, and it protects these tyrannical, authoritarian nations. All right? The Able UN would not do that. It would not protect that. It would probably exclude, it would not allow dictatorship nations to be even in the UN. Okay? Do you see that? How different that would be? And of course, it would be moving for the opposite, right? The UN, the regular satanic UN, is always pushing for what? Disarmament, disarmament, disarmament. That's all you hear. We're going to look at how successful their disarmament has been. And of course, the disarmament is done on nations which have been more sovereignty-based. Not the tyrannical nations. They've been going after gun-ho. They've been given it by our stupid presidents, like Bill Clinton and the CIA, Black Ops, governments that have been giving them the damn missiles. The threat of nuclear war has always been there since the 1945s, okay? So it's always been there, but just people have been so brain dead to its reality, and of course not wanting to believe that it's coming because it's so terrifying, so terrible. Nobody wants to think about nuclear holocaust. Because it's better not to think about it, you just feel better about your day, okay? You just feel better about your coffee, feel better about your day, you'll feel better about your children a little bit, as long as you don't think about nuclear attack or nuclear war. The minute you have to think about nuclear war, then you have to start framing your existence and all of people's existence in a different way. You're in a seriously different world then. Now, we've had tremendous blessing for the last, 60, 70 years. When the Lord of Second Advent is on the earth, he was blocking those things and, of course, stopping, of course, North Korea from being even more insane than this, because they were way more insane. They could be way more insane than even Kim Jong-un. But obviously, everybody knows True Father played a critical role in staving them off and making them, docile. Okay? Now, if the Han Mother did not betray Father and turn her back and reject the three kingship, etc. If she did not do that, then the work that we were doing in Korea would have been pressed forward now almost 5 years, but before that it was starting and we were making the inroads in for 5 years before that, so it's 10 years going on. And the message that we were giving to the South Korean government, and we were working at the highest levels of government, okay, Gukjeong Strong Korea initiatives. We had the Vice Deputy of the Nation of Korea for the Defense Department at the events. He came to our church events as well. We had 60 stars of all the generals that were sitting at the events. He was being invited to the top military schools to give lectures about the reality of the threat of China, the underpreparedness of South Korea. And of course, we had a very clear strategic plan for Korea to move towards sovereignty. What was that? They're now in a military system where they don't train their men. Everybody's supposed to go to the army, but they don't train in actual military tactics or anything like that. It's more of a brainwashing camp. So they go into the military and they're taught for 2.5 years, you just have to obey the hierarchy. Just worship the hierarchy. And you try to screw around, you're going to be just killed, okay? That's what the Korean men really learn. They shoot maybe around 200 rounds per year. We shoot that in a day, in an hour here. In an hour. 1 hour here, we'll be shooting 200 rounds easy. They shoot about 200 rounds a year. A year. Most of the time for Korean military men is guarding little bases. And they're just standing there smoking cigarettes all day. Guarding bases. That's all they're doing. and just taking orders. Learning that the hierarchy, the centralized government is your God. You have to obey this God. And if you don't, you screw around with it, we'll make your life miserable. We'll put you in prison. That's basically the training there, okay? So it's not really military training, it's an indoctrination training. That's what you get, of course, with centralized governments and archangelic powers. Okay? So, what was the clear strategic guidance that we were giving to the Korean nation? Have your military men go to service, fine, that's fine. When they go to service, they do their training. When they come back home, you, the government, you should allow them to bring their weapons back to their home, like the Switzerland model, like the Israeli model. Okay? So you have a scenario where Israel is surrounded by hostile nuclear powers like Iran, etc., you name it, right? All the Middle Eastern nations trying to kill Israel. But they have everybody who's trained, even the girls have to go there, military. Everybody gets the military training, but then they also are able to get the guns. So in 1 hour, the whole nation becomes an army. That's why no nation around them, even though they're powerful in their nuclear capabilities, they don't want to mess with Israel. And also the same in Switzerland. Hitler decimated Europe. He took up all the nations of Europe. But there was one nation he didn't touch. What's that nation he didn't touch? Switzerland was not touched because Hitler did the estimates. He said, if we go into Switzerland, it's going to be 1 million men. We're going to send in. We got 500,000 military-age men ready to train, ready to go. So you come with 1 million men, we'll just climb up those mountains. We know those mountains. We'll shoot twice, boom, boom, and we'll come back home and then drink coffee. Now, if South Korea did that and listened to the direct guidance of Cain and Abel that we're giving to the top levels of the elite. And of course, as you know, spiritually, we were trying to divide the elite between Abel type, Cain type. Okay, because in order to get Abel type revolution, you have to split the elite, and the good elites have to help create the foundation and have the funds, all that kind of stuff, to support an actual battle, basically, that happens within their class ranks. Okay? Just like Donald Trump. He's from the elite, but because he's standing and all the people support him, boom, he can make this huge inroad against this deep state, right? You see? The same thing with Korea that had to be done, split. Okay, because it's highly centralized. And then you would get the firearms that they train with in the military that would be one step closer to the civilians. And then the civilians, the dad would train the mom how to use it when the dad is out or something and some bad guy tries to come in. Then it would be seen more as a self-defense tool. Even as that culture will start shifting, they'll start seeing, oh, not only as a military weapon, but also a self-defense tool. Right? And at the same time, he's going to train his kids, so his kids are going to learn about how to defend and have a proper amygdala function and think about self-defense. And, oh, if mommy and daddy are not here and there's a bad guy trying to break in, you have to go there, and you guys are trained. You're 14 years old now, so you got to go get the gun, and then you have to, put that assailant out. Okay? So then what happens? What happens to the mafias in Korea? What happens to all the gangs? What happens to all the bad predators? Are they going to think twice about breaking into grandma's home? Now they're going to think twice about breaking into grandma's home or even a single mom's home or somebody else's home, okay? They're not going to have the leverage of power that they once had. And when the firearms would be brought down that way, then it would bring a whole new culture. You could start connecting with father sovereignty culture and the hunting farm, the hog hunting farm he was making down in Yeosu, or the fishing farm, all those self-reliance arts, all the aquaponics and all this stuff, self-reliance things, they would just naturally connect, because that whole culture of being into self-defense and understanding how to defend yourself and empower your kids to defend themselves, that's all connected to self-reliance. And not being a slave to a system, not being a slave to some archangels promising you they'll do it.